They came out in their thousands for a day of xenophobic rage across South Africa. Protesters brandishing batons and flags had a simple demand: undocumented migrants must leave the country by today. This is probably one of the biggest law enforcement operations in recent South African history. Where we are?
So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Sings Abdu, and you are watching the Pan-African Climate Focus. I want to begin from the video you have been watching. It is a video of the 30th June 2026, where non-nationals in South Africa or foreigners were given an ultimatum to leave South Africa or lest face consequences. It was forced expulsion resulting from the condition of xenophobia. The hate of the nationals against the non-nationals characterized in many or manifesting under different characteristics, but portraying against non-nationals by the mere fact that they do not have the culture that the nationals of South Africa themselves have. South Africa can be said today to be suffering from such problems, but these problems are not independent of the climate crisis that we have been talking about all along from our past videos. If you have been our follower or if you have followed up onto our videos we have been trying to make here. According to experts, climate change or climate crisis is a threat multiplier. No wonder that today in South Africa cannot be said to be independent of such problems that experts do mention that are capable of being multiplied by the crisis called climate. There is evidence, but before I put out this point, experts do continue to say that countries burdened with poor governance do face more pressure or greater pressure from climate crisis than countries that are not burdened with poor governance. So, upon that background, there is enough evidence to point to the fact that the problems in South Africa are due to a number of issues, but climate crisis not independent. I would like to help myself with an article from Dr. Lamini Aina at the University of SOAS in London. This article is titled Climate Conflict and Governance in the Sahel, why Africa's security future will be negotiated at the climate table. This article caught my attention because of the way it explains the multiplication of threats as a result of climate crisis. We shall not overdelve too much into this article or into the whole of this article, but rather shall pick out some moments which are very relevant to our discussion today. And therefore, in the middle of that article, under the subheading Climate Stress, Governance Fragility, and Production of Insecurity, this author continues to write that the climate conflict nexus in the Sahel is often oversimplified through the suggestion that climate change directly causes conflict. Because we are drawing analogy to what is happening between this article and what is happening in South Africa, I would like where this author puts the Sahel, you to place there South Africa, or preferably Africa. And this article will be reading like this. The climate conflict nexus in the Sahel is often oversimplified through the suggestion that climate change directly causes conflict. In reality, climate change acts less as an isolated trigger and more as a threat multiplier that intensifies pre-existing vulnerabilities. Rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, desertification, and increasing erratic rainfall patterns are undermining agriculture and those who rely on it. Just by mere that small statement alone, South Africa is having a history of climate crisis, as we have put it. And because I want this evidence to be on record for this video, let's watch how climate crisis has been affecting South Africa, such that as we proceed, we shall be able to uncover how it has multiplied the problems of South Africa.
Saying they need funding to get back on their feet. The sector has lost millions due to those floods in April. They also lost millions because of the July unrest and, mind you, COVID-19.
Meanwhile, the Agriculture Department held a summit to discuss ways to mitigate the effects of floods. Letio Mdluli reports it also shared plans on how it will assist affected farmers.
The agricultural sector in KwaZulu-Natal is in the process of rebuilding following the floods in April. It's been a devastating 2 years for the sector with COVID-19, the July unrest and the floods. KZN is a significant producer of various products. During this time, the sector has been trying to pick up the pieces. Today, a summit focusing on providing a way forward for the sector was held in Palito. Farmers have shared how they've been badly affected by not only the unrest but natural disasters as well.
During the looting, we are highly affected. 10 of our tunnels were burnt. Some of them were cut. We were also equipment that the farming equipment was looted, and then it affected our production and processing in such a way that we had to lose a lot of staff work and a lot of employees that we have at Elecrop.
So, from that video alone, it is clear that South Africa is plagued with a number of climate crises. But let's continue and watch how South Africa goes on to suffer under these circumstances that later, as we shall see in the future of this video, that continue to unveil.
The devastating effects of El Niño. The lack of rain accompanied by heat waves. This is the worst drought to hit South Africa since 1982. Millions are facing water shortages.
This is rather unusual because under normal circumstances, I would be waist height in water here. This reservoir has completely dried up, and it just goes to show how severe the drought is.
The country's farmers have been the hardest hit. 6 of Thuso Kalane's cows starved to death. Many more are missing. He fears the worst. He wanted to show us the dried up watering hole, only to find one of his calves trapped in the mud, close to death. There was no time to waste. More manpower was needed, and the BBC team had to put the camera down and assist with the rescue.
Over this way.
Come on, there you go. There you go, come on. There you go. Yeah.
This is heartbreaking. I am losing out more than I should be gaining. It's only a matter of time before those who work for me become unemployed.
Without some intervention, the stark reality facing many farmers is that more livestock will keep dying.
And just talking about the soil itself.
Many.
So, it's evident that agriculture is suffering under serious droughts. These have been moments in South Africa where farmers have been losing out. And by losing out on agriculture, it means a lot in terms of employment opportunities. As we shall be seeing in future of this video, climate change has multiplied many challenges, including the employment challenge. It has caused resource scarcity, pushing these people, the nationals and the non-nationals, into unhealthy competition that today is resulting into the xenophobia we are saying. Our article writer continues by saying, rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, desertification, and increasing erratic rainfall patterns are undermining agriculture. Those who rely on it, disrupting pastoral systems and deepening competition over already scarce resources. These are the issues we have been trying to highlight when we have been watching that past video, where governance institutions are weak and there is a limited state presence. These pressures can multiply, can rapidly evolve into localized violence and broader insecurity. So what we are seeing today is the breakage of institutions, and there is evidence as to the breakage of institutions and governance mechanisms in South Africa that we can attribute to the breakout of this xenophobia and very many other problems in South Africa.
Well, to the story, experts are blaming poor government policies and bad governance for retarding economic growth for more than a decade. They say the electricity crisis, the collapse of state entities and high levels of crime reduce investment opportunities. The Center for Development and Enterprise accuses political leaders of paying mere lip service to growth. To elaborate on this further, I am joined now by the Center's Executive Director, Anne Bernstein. Anne, thank you so much for your time. A very good morning to you. Let's talk a little bit about this impact. I mean, this has been happening for 15 years. And unfortunately, it's not just the South African citizens that are feeling the brunt of poor governance, lack of service delivery, accountability and the like, but it's also potential investors to the country. What have been some of those findings?
Good morning. I think you've got to look at the many crises facing South Africa today and the fact that we're struggling to get growth and try and understand why we're in this situation. And that's one of the big challenges. We have not had an accurate diagnosis of why we have all these many crises facing the country and why the costs of doing business, even the possibility of doing business in South Africa, is going so high. And so our document today is saying that in effect, if you
so our focus is not on what exactly the expert is discussing, but our focus is on whether there is really a crisis of governance in South Africa. And according to what we are hearing from what all these people are saying, they all agree that in South Africa there is a challenge of governance. So, as the expert here, the writer of our article is putting it, that these problems put more pressure on countries that are facing governance issues. It is exactly that what is being portrayed here when we hear voices pointing to the fact that governance is an issue in South Africa. Let's continue to see how governance has played out in South Africa in terms of bringing about employment opportunities, because these are the factors that have been multiplied by climate crisis to amplify or to compound the stress of these people, now that today they are erupting into chaos against the non-nationals.
For the most part, white South Africans are better.
As we continue with the article, the author writes that across the Sahel, such as in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and northern Nigeria. But remember, we are just making an analogy. Where there are all those countries mentioned before, I want you to place there South Africa. Ecological stress has worsened tensions between farmers and pastoralists, while at the same time weakening the mechanisms that have traditionally been used to manage resource competition, such as mobility. The collapse of systems upon which people rely has also created fertile conditions for recruitment by violent extremist organizations. So, the author is talking about extremist groups, and in regard he's talking about terrorists. But in this particular instance of South Africa, we want to talk about organizations like the March and March, which has already started exploiting, or which is exploiting, the local grievances for their own benefit. This issue is put out clearly by one of these human rights experts, that political parties and some of these organizations are scapegoating South Africans for their own benefit. Let's watch.
You know, the political parties are scraping the bottom of the barrel in trying to lie to people that it's the problem, all our problems are the migrants, And if we get rid of the migrants, then we'll have no problems in South Africa.
With youth unemployment at around...
So, as you have heard an expert putting it, what the writer is trying to say, that extremist groups do exploit the grievances of these local people and take these people into supporting their own agendas. So, no wonder today that we are seeing xenophobia has mushroomed in South Africa to such an extent.